Okay, today we're diving into the life and mind of a figure so iconic, his very name became a synonym for genius itself, Albert Einstein.
I mean, of course you have, right? It's the ultimate compliment. You call someone an Einstein, and we all know exactly what you mean. But why? What did he actually do to earn that kind of reputation?
We have this image of him as some kind of perfect, straight-A student from the very beginning, but the truth about young Albert Einstein, it's totally different and honestly way more interesting.
Yeah, you heard that right. The man whose name is literally shorthand for genius, he had trouble with the rigid, boring rules of his school. His teachers just saw this daydreamer and figured, this kid's never gonna amount to much. So how in the world did that daydreamer end up changing everything we thought we knew about the universe?
Well, it all goes back to his very unlikely start in life, a journey that took him from being a quiet kid to working a totally ordinary desk job.
So let's trace that path real quick. He's born in Germany. Then, at just 5 years old, something clicks. His dad shows him a simple magnetic compass, and seeing that invisible force mysteriously move the needle just blows his mind and sparks this lifelong curiosity. He goes on to study physics, but after graduation, he can't even get a teaching job. So he ends up as a clerk in a patent office. And it's right there, at that boring desk, looking at other people's inventions, that he secretly started reinventing the entire universe.
And this, right here, this is the core of his genius. See, it wasn't about memorizing answers. It was about asking the biggest, weirdest, most basic questions you can imagine. He wasn't just trying to learn physics. He was trying to figure out the very nature of reality itself.
And all that deep thinking was building up to this one incredible moment in the history of science. While he was still working that desk job, Einstein had what we now call his miracle year. So get this, in a single year, 1905, this unknown patent clerk publishes 4 revolutionary papers. Now, to put that into perspective for you, any one of these papers would have been enough to make a scientist famous for life. He published 4 in 1 year. This unbelievable burst of creativity just completely changed the game for physics.
So let's just focus on 2 of the absolute game changers from that year. First up, the photoelectric effect. For a long time, everyone just knew light was a wave. But Einstein comes along and says, well, what if it's also a stream of tiny little energy packets, which he called photons? This wild idea basically kick-started quantum mechanics. And get this, it was for this idea, not relativity, that he eventually won the Nobel Prize.
And this wasn't just some abstract theory. No way. This single idea is the reason we have so much of our modern tech. Every time you see a solar panel soaking up the sun or snap a picture with a digital camera, you are literally seeing the legacy of that one paper from 1905.
Okay, so the second huge idea came from one of his famous thought experiments. He asked himself this simple, almost childlike question. But the answer he came up with would become his theory of special relativity, and it would completely shatter everything we thought we knew about space and time.
And from that theory of relativity came this, probably the most famous equation in the entire world. It's so clean, so simple, and what it means is just staggering.
So what does it mean? It means that mass and energy are basically 2 sides of the same coin. They're interchangeable. And it means that a tiny, tiny piece of matter can be turned into a truly enormous amount of energy. This is the secret that unlocked the power of the atom, for good and for bad. And it's how we figured out what makes the stars shine.
But Einstein, he wasn't done. Oh no. 10 years later, he was ready to unveil his masterpiece, a whole new theory of gravity that would explain how the entire cosmos works.
The jump in thinking here is just huge. For centuries, we all thought of gravity like an invisible rope, pulling things together. But Einstein came along and proposed this radical new idea. Gravity isn't a force at all. It's the actual shape of the universe. This is the absolute best way to picture it, okay? Imagine space-time as one big flat trampoline. Now, you take a heavy bowling ball, let's call it the sun, and you put it right in the middle. The trampoline sinks down, right? It creates a curve. So now you roll a little marble, that's a planet, nearby. What happens? The marble isn't being pulled by the bowling ball. It's just following the curve that the ball made in the fabric. That is gravity. It's an absolutely beautiful and mind-bending idea.
So after basically rewriting the laws of the entire cosmos, Einstein's life took another turn. He moved beyond the lab. His fame made it impossible for him to ignore the huge political and moral problems of his time, and it transformed him from this quiet scientist into a true global figure.
As a Jewish scientist, he had to flee Nazi Germany and ended up in the United States. And it was there, knowing the terrifying power his own discoveries had unleashed, that he signed a letter warning the US government about atomic weapons. After the war, he spent the rest of his life fighting for peace, really hammering home the idea that science has to serve humanity, always.
So all these years after his death, why are we still talking about him? Why does Albert Einstein still matter so much?
While his impact is literally everywhere, that GPS in your phone, it actually has to use his theories of relativity to work properly. Wild, right? He also gave us this new, incredible, much weirder vision of the universe. But maybe, most importantly, his story proves that genius isn't about getting perfect grades. It's about never, ever losing that sense of wonder.
He really said it best himself. Knowledge, he said, is limited. It's just about what we already know and understand. But imagination, imagination can take you anywhere. It's the engine that drives every single new discovery.
And that kind of leaves us with one final thought. Einstein unlocked the secrets of the cosmos just by asking big questions and letting his imagination go wild. So the real question isn't just about him, it's about you. What worlds will your curiosity unlock?